heard about this particular food in Korea. Join us on our journey as we uncover where these interesting gourmets come from all around the world with our one and only chef Matt in the studio for 맛. 안녕하세요, 셰프님.
안녕하세요.
How are you doing?
Doing well. Managed to stay dry today, luckily.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. Interesting weather this week. We've had like the highs of 34 degrees and then we
Sure.
got the rain and 갑자기 약간 저 같은 경우는 조금 쌀쌀하거든요. So hopefully nobody's catching a cold or anything because it's 딱 적합한 season to 감기 걸려.
Have you noticed the 사랑벌레?
Yes.
Yeah, they've reappeared.
So many 벌레s just mating around on my windshield,
Yeah.
on my windows.
작년에 어디였죠? Was it like 은평구 or like 송파구?
Okay.
Like, yeah, there was like one neighborhood that was just overrun with them last year, just for like a few days.
은평구.
Yeah, sounds about right.
아하,
Oh yeah.
눈을 어디다 둬야 되는지 모르겠어요. But I guess it's cool to see nature running its course.
That's a really optimistic way of looking at it. I applaud your optimism.
This evening when I was coming to work, there was two pairs that was on my windshield. But I was stuck in traffic, and then as soon as traffic kind of opened up, I was going 80 on the highway, and they were hanging on.
Yeah, I know. They and what do you do? Okay,
Relentless.
do you run your windshield wipers to
No,
smash? See, yeah, I would
no.
rather, yeah.
Just let them go. Let them at it.
Sure. I wanted to bring something up before we get into today's
Okay.
topic. So something you brought up in the last part was the idea between like 행주 and 걸레, right? So for those who are interested, they're 그 영어로 구분할 거면은 so 행주, like you mentioned, tends to be used like on not on the
Dishes.
floor,
Right,
yeah, like on
right.
dishes, on countertops, and then 걸레 is generally for like grimier tasks,
Right.
like cleaning the oven or the floor. So in English, in a professional kitchen, you'd use the term side towel.
Side towel.
In American English and just regular domestic kitchens, you'd call it a dish towel.
Right, dish towel.
And then in UK and Commonwealth nations, you call it a tea towel.
아, tea towel.
Tea towel is the term that they use for
그게 행주.
Yeah, yeah. And then 걸레 would just be like a cleaning towel or a rag.
A rag.
Yeah, yeah.
그쵸. That's interesting, learning new things. Well, getting to our main topic, we talked a lot about like, I guess onomatopoeia. Are they onomatopoeias?
Yeah, yeah.
I was getting confused with oxymoron, excuse me. Right, so the sounds of food and the sizzling things and foods that are named after, I mean, there's just so much to talk about. Are we continuing on that track?
We are, and we're going to bring in some actual sounds this time around for us to listen to. Some are pleasant, some are not.
Listening quiz까지 있기 때문에 저와 함께 끝까지 해주시길 바랍니다. Well, let's get to our first... I was going to say story. First question of the day.
That's right. So our first question, and if you tuned in last week, you would know the answer to this. Which language describes the sound of eating as mumph?
Mumph. Well, I think it's a pretty easy one, even if you didn't tune in.
Sure.
딱 그 지역의 언어인 것 같은 느낌이 들긴 하지만 힌트를 드리자면 딱 보면 유럽풍 나지 않겠어요?
It's a word that ends in a PF. So I think that's a pretty dead giveaway.
먹을 때 나는 소리를 맘프라고 표현하는 언어는 무슨 언어일까요?
That's right.
That's a fun one. All right, well, let's get to these other onomatopoeias.
That's right. So 기분 좋게, let's start off with a very pleasant sound.
Okay.
Let's play the first one now.
Aha. This could either be two things.
That's true.
한 가지는 이제 전 붙이는 그 지글지글. 두 번째 거는 이제 캠프파이어 같은 거 있잖아요.
Ah, that's right. Yeah, the crackling of like
a
a
fire.
Yeah.
Yeah. It does. 갑자기 마음이 따뜻하고 포근해졌어요.
It is the first one, but the second one you're talking about, are you familiar with the term 불멍?
맞아요.
So I think both of them have great words behind each of the sounds. But you were right with your first guess, and that was the sound of sizzling in a pan. And in Korean, of course, we use the term 지글지글.
지글지글. And this could, span out. It could be, like frying a fish on the pan. It could be a hot dog on the pan.
Could be 고기.
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be just a frying pan or 전, but it's one I think we often associate with that. I think I think maybe like in the West, you most associate that sound with maybe the sound of cooking bacon.
Oh, yeah. 맞아요. Yeah, that's so true. Do you know how unsatisfactory it is to lay your bacon or whatever gogi it is on the pan and it doesn't sizzle?
It's like it's like telling a joke and not getting a laugh.
Yeah, where's the punchline? You got to wait a little bit longer. It's the worst thing in the world.
And I think, there's some truth to that because have you noticed the sound of 지글지글 kind of sounds like the sound of 박수. It almost sounds like the sound of applause. Yay! This is delicious.
That's true. The louder it is, also, the more applaud you can get.
That's right. And so there are a couple of terms around the world that would be the equivalent of 지글지글.
Okay.
In English, you would have sizzle, sizzle.
Sizzle, sizzle, wiggle, wiggle, jiggle, jiggle.
Yeah. In Mandarin Chinese, there's zizi, which is pretty similar to 지글지글.
Okay.
In Czech, you have prsk.
Oh, that's a bit random for me.
Yeah, I think prsk is less of the kind of oily jigger sound. We talked about bubble and squeak last week.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it's more maybe that along those lines.
Sounds a little fresh to me also.
Prsk.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the sound. I think it's the spitting part of
맞아요.
rather than like the bubbling part of the jigger. And then in Estonian, you have which again is only part of it.
It's part of it.
Yeah, it's maybe like when like a steak hits the pan.
And the first part.
That first part,
right.
when you get like the puff of steam.
Yeah.
But it's not. It doesn't have the bubbling and the crackling of the oil.
No, I could even say, do as the steam that comes out of the pressure cooker of the rice cooker.
맞아요.
So yeah, unsatisfactory.
We'll come to see that. I think Korea is pretty superlative when it comes to onomatopoeia. Next one, we have also another very pleasant sound. Let's take a listen.
이거는 국물이 굵어요. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's definitely a thicker substance.
그냥 국물 아니에요. It's not just broth. There is some substantial like oomph in it.
And of course, the term in Korean we'd use for that is 보글보글.
There's a lot of 비읍 기역. There's like 부글부글. Is there not? Maybe that's a different onomatopoeia, like entirely. 보글보글, 바글바글.
바글바글.
Anyways, 보글보글.
Yeah, there's a famous comedian named his name's George Carlin, and he has this very famous bit called 7 Words You Can't Say on Television, and he basically says like the 7 like worst swear words out there, but he's saying that all the best swear words have like the very dynamic consonants, the B sounds, the K sounds, the G sounds. And I think there's something to be said about onomatopoeia as well. I think the best ones, the most dynamic ones have like the K's and the B's and the J's.
맞아요. That's true. That's very true. That's why it gives like a type of satisfaction when you hear it but also say it.
Sure.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. And so I don't know every language and I don't know the terms in every language, but I could not find another language that has like as dedicated of a term for the sound of boiling the way that Korean does. Because like when you look it up in English, right, it's like bubble bubble or blurp blurp. But these aren't like the standard terms for it, right?
Like something you see off of like a comic strip.
Yeah, you don't ever hear about like, oh, and the bubble of the stew, made my, and it doesn't seem like there are other languages like this. And so it's kind of similar to the idea of brown. Have you heard about this?
No. What is brown?
Technically, brown isn't really a color. Brown
is it not?
So if you look at it, so think about the way like LED lights work, right? You can't make a brown LED.
See. Okay.
Because brown is technically like a dark orange or a dark, like kind of like green, like olivey.
Right.
And so it's only once you have that context and once you desaturate and add, that darkness to it, But you can't make, as a result, that's why you can't make a brown LED. And
That's true.
so even if, like on a computer screen, right, if you were to just isolate like one single brown pixel of a thing, it would appear more orange than brown.
Wow, you explained that so well. Because some people say like, oh, black isn't a color. And I'm like, well, I don't, of course it is. And then you talk about, it's true.
Yeah.
Like it's all like pixelated if you talk about lights.
Yeah.
And CMYK or RGB or all that kind of stuff.
And so, like, even the term, like, the word brown itself comes from the word dark, like dusky.
Oh.
So it's essentially, and there are some languages that don't have the word brown natively.
Yeah.
There are a lot of languages where it is just the term coffee colored or earth colored or chocolate colored.
Yeah, we talked about that recently with Korea's word for purple.
Yeah, purple.
보라색.
And I think we also talked about the difference between blue and green in different countries as well. And, you know, that spectrum, it differs. And so, and as a result, because we eat so much of our food boiling hot at the table, whereas you don't see that in a lot of cultures.
Right.
I think you see that in a couple other cultures, China for one, here in, out here in Asia. And then there are a couple of Eastern European countries where you have like a hot pot type dish. But you just don't see you don't have to describe a boiling pot of liquid as often as you do in Korean.
Right.
That's my theory, at least.
I mean, going back to then sizzling, then I feel like Mexicans should have, specifically Mexicans, just because of fajitas.
Right. And actually, one thing I've noticed is that, and again, please, any Spanish speakers out there, please correct me if I'm wrong. Spanish tends to have fewer onomatopoeias than other Western languages, it seems like. It feels like I like there are a lot more adjectives to describe things rather than onomatopoeias.
Okay.
But again, please, if I just completely did not find that hidden list of Spanish food onomatopoeias,
I mean, you don't
chime in because I would love to learn them as well.
You don't look them up?
I
Spanish onomatopoeias?
You know, like I have I have Google Alerts set up. You know, when new ones develop, but nothing is pinged yet.
All right, 보글보글, 지글지글. Lots of different sounds we're talking about. But first, before we move on, let's get back to our question once again. 먹을 때 나는 소리를 맘프라고 표현하는 언어는 무슨 언어일까요?
That's right. Which language describes the sound of eating as mumph?
Let us know if you have your questions, your concerns, your opinions, your answers. Sharp 1013, shorter messages for 51, longer messages for 100. We'll leave you guys with 컬투, 세상 참 맛있다. 세상 참 맛있다. We're talking about the most delicious onomatopoeias around. We did sizzling, we did boiling. What's next?
Now we're going into the sounds of eating rather than the sounds of cooking, and this could be triggering for some listeners.
Be. That's so true.
We're not telling anyone to tune out, please. 버티세요.
Yeah.
But you're gonna have to stick around. But it may get a little uncomfortable for you out here for those people who aren't into like the mukbang type.
The mukbang ASMRs.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to it.
All right, let's hear our first eating sound effect.
사과예요. 무조건 사과.
It is Yep, it is.
Is it?
It is 100% an apple.
진짜야. This is. I know. 거기까지 좀 그랬어요.
Right.
I heard the saliva. 침 넘어가는
and the
소리.
juiciness, and that's the thing, right? Like it's the crunch and the juiciness. And so in Korean, like the term for crunching, we have actually a fair number of different terms.
맞아요.
Yeah. So what we would describe that sound, that would be like 아삭아삭.
I think so.
Yeah, like 아삭한 사과. Like, that's like, a crispy apple.
Right.
And it's not crispy in the way a potato crisp is.
Right.
Apple has its own kind of particular crispiness, the way your teeth kind of break through the skin.
Yeah.
And there's a juiciness that kind of pops. So there's 아삭아삭. And then you might also hear 와삭.
What is wasak?
와삭 is more like 바삭한 과자를 먹을 때. Not like an airy. More like think more like a denser kind of like a You know the one. It's like covered in 꿀 and like coated in peanuts.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
맛,
Yeah, right. The
맛뿅뿅.
Yeah, there you go. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that's the best.
the
그런 게 와사기군요.
Yeah, that's more of a wasak. It's something that has a little bit more substance to
Okay.
it because you have pashak, which is
pashak.
kind of more of an airy kind of like a like
뻥튀기 같은 거를 먹을
yeah,
때.
뻥튀기 or like the onion ring snacks.
그쵸.
Some pashak, 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 pashak. And then there's also a kind of like a like 욕심 많아 like 많은 like 혼자서 빨리 먹는 느낌. It's like pashak, 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 pashak.
많이 해본?
Oh yeah.
Every day.
Yeah, I have to finish it before my wife gets home.
That's
Otherwise I
so
have to share them.
true. Yeah.
But we also have a different type of crunching noise, which I don't know if there's really an equivalent to this, is 오도독.
I thought 오도독 was kind of like 사과를 씻을 때 it's like 굉장히 뺀질뺀질 해가지고 오도독 소리 날 때까지 깨끗이 씻는 건가?
So there is kind of a parallel because is it
grinding noise?
yeah, like there is kind of a grinding aspect to it. So when in terms of the context of crunching, when you talk about 오도독, you're most often talking about those little bits of cartilage that you find in things like 삼겹살.
맞아요.
And it is that kind of sensation of like it's pressing, and then like it kind of like breaks through as it.
맞아요, yeah.
Right.
That's such a good one. PD님께서 사과를 씻을 때 그게 뽀드득. 뽀드득. 그리고 오도독은 땅콩 같은 거를 먹는
Right. Yeah, it's like the idea of like it kind of vibrates in
your
skull.
head. Yeah. That's a good way to put it. 오도독. 와작와작까지도 있는데요.
Yeah.
이거는 또 뭘까요?
와작 is like so you'll see this one in like manhwa a lot. It's like the idea like 되게 like 긴장하게 급하게 먹을 때.
Okay.
Yeah, like when you're at a movie theater and it's like a really thrilling movie.
Yeah.
And you're just like popcorn and then you can even like kind of like stretch it out and go wagujak and that kind of like stretches
They're
it out
like
even further.
tongue twisters.
Yeah.
It's hard to pronounce them.
But yeah, we're seeing a lot of these kind of very dynamic consonant sounds here, right? The
Right.
J's and the K's and the G sounds.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell that's the reason why it's so much fun to speak the language. You know the culture by speaking the language, we always say. But through onomatopoeias, you can tell how people actually eat in Korea.
Yeah, and you can also tell the way that people eat around the world because this is one that every country, other countries might not have terms for the sounds of boiling. Everyone definitely has a term for the sounds of eating.
Right.
So in other languages, the sounds of kind of chewing, we have things like ham in Albania.
I like that.
Is a great one.
Ham.
Yeah. Nem in Azerbaijan.
Cute.
Estonian has amps, which is kind of a clue to, I guess, our question because it's not far from Estonia. I love in French, it's not crunch, it's crunch. It's
more sophisticated.
It's crunching in cursive.
Crunch.
Yeah. Finnish has rusk, Hungarian has ham, Italian has nyam, Vietnamese has wam, and Ukrainian, I think, has the most aggressive one. Krum.
Oh, okay. That is aggressive. But I like it. It seems like they're eating something hearty as well.
That's
I feel
right.
like you know what food they're eating.
Yep. It is definitely something that will, substantive.
Yeah.
But I want to get to our last sound because this one is the one that I think is the most challenging.
Okay. 함께 들어보죠. 젤리 젤리 아닌가? 껌 씹을 때.
It is gum.
껌.
It is gum. Okay, so the term for this, smacking your lips very noisily and soggily, is 쩝쩝거리다.
맞아요.
Like 쩝쩝거리지마, something that like a lot of parents will tell their kids. And I had to go through so many of these to find one that was the least disgusting out of all of them.
Really? I can imagine.
Does the sound of smacking...
It's not too bad. I think it's because we're just on the show and it's part of the, segment and things like that. But if somebody was right next to me, actually last night somebody got in the elevator and was 껌을 그렇게 쫙쫙 씹는 거를 오랜만에 들었어요.
Sure.
And I just could not believe somebody was doing that. And I could not wait to get out of the elevator.
Sure.
But then I am a little bit of a hypocrite because there are certain foods that 쩝쩝거리게 먹는 게 재미있는 그런 음식들이 있어요. Like 떡. I love
sure,
eating.
sure.
쫀득쫀득.
I feel like you almost have to though, right? Because like duck is almost like quicksand. Like just the mere fact of separating your teeth like creates that
work.
suction because it's so 끈적끈적해.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
I feel like that one is like it's almost impossible to eat without doing that.
Yeah, and I guess yacht maybe another example.
Yeah, because
like
again,
taffy.
very sticky. You know, it's basically like you said, it's Korean taffy. It's I've had multiple fillings pulled out of my teeth twice. Like multiple. I guess is kind of dramatic. I've had 2 fillings in my lifetime
Still.
pulled out because of 호박엿.
조심해야 돼요.
Yeah. So yeah, if you suffer from misophonia in Korean, it's known as 청각 과민증, or most oftentimes it's just Hangulized misophonia.
아, 이게 쩝쩝거리는 거에 대해서 굉장히 싫은.
It's the idea that that certain sounds just really bother you when you listen to them.
All right. Well, we have quickly run out of time, so let's get to our question and the answer. 먹을 때 나는 소리를 맘프라고 표현하는 언어는 어느 나라 언어일까요?
That's right. Which language describes the sound of eating as mump?
Drum roll, please.
독일입니다.
독일.
That's right. Germany, Deutschland, when they enjoy their food, they go mump, mump, mump.
Yeah, you can just imagine all the bread that they're eating.
It's definitely bread,
Yeah.
right? With that sound? Yeah.
Well, stick around. There's still more to come. Here's Justin Bieber. Yummy. Join us on our journey as we uncover where these interesting gourmets come from all around the world with our one and only Chef Matt in the studio for 맛대 맛. 안녕하세요.
안녕하세요.
Talking about the most disturbing sounds, what's one that you really can't stand at all?
The sound of a fork on a plate.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, the knives. I actually really like plates touching each other.
I don't mind that. I like that sound. It's clink. It's pleasant.
Yeah,
But
right.
yeah.
It's just not.
How about you? What are some sounds that put you on edge?
I think that would be on the top 5. Definitely the knife. If you cut it too much, then I don't want to hear you really like going at it.
Sure.
But I think one that's in my head is when my teeth also grind up against each other in the wrong way, and when I don't expect it. That's also one that it's probably because of the texture more than it is the sense of like what do I call it? A texture?
Yeah, a sensation.
Yeah, the sensation of it. Oh, excuse me. But in any case, we're still on the topic of different sounds, but now we're heading over to what a particular thing is before it becomes food.
That's right. What sounds does our food make? And since vegetables don't make noise, that leaves us with animal sounds.
All right. Coming back to our second question.
That's right. So which language describes the sound a rooster makes as 틱티라옥? 틱티라옥.
틱티라오. Okay. 수탉이 우는 울음소리를 틱티라오라고 표현하는 언어는 무슨 언어일까요?
I'll tell you this: the way to the onomatopoeia for a rooster's crow is wild. It's like wildly different throughout the world.
Really?
We'll go over some of them when I give the answer. But yeah, they can get pretty out there.
Okay. Well, we are getting a message. 8400님, 맘프. 전에 아일랜드 레스토랑에서 들었어요. Is that
interesting.
from Irish? From an Irish restaurant?
So I've seen the term mump used throughout different pieces. Like there's a movie called Mump as well. So yeah, it very well could have traveled borders. You know, because like it's a great word.
It is. There are like, I mean, this isn't really a sound, but I once heard that, MOI in Vietnamese is like 저기요.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So like certain words or certain phrases, if we translate it into like a certain menu or the restaurant name, I mean, I mean, that's fun.
Well, also Mumph, I think, kind of went viral in like 2011, 2014, kind of like early Twitter days as a meme, as like, did you know that like this word's great, and like people's like, I'm going to use this word for everything.
Right, right. I think when like petrichor, is that the word?
Petrichor, yeah, exactly. Yeah, right around that same time, kind
yeah.
of like during the whole BuzzFeed listicle articles, 39 words you didn't know you needed to use.
Yeah, and it does make sense. I mean, once you learn the definition, it's like, I know exactly what that means. And Mumph is one of them. All right, well, let's get to our question once again. So this particular sound is titilauk.
Titilauk.
Okay.
Titilauk. And it's a sound that a rooster makes in a particular language.
Okay.
So, what do different animals sound like around the world? And I want to start with cats, not because we eat them. Actually, almost no one eats cats.
Right.
It's because it's a carnivorous animal, and it's just I think humans are just hardwired not to really eat carnivorous.
They're too domesticated.
Animals. Yeah. But it's because it's probably the most common onomatopoeia around the world.
Oh.
It's probably the one that sounds the most similar across every language.
Right.
In English, we have meow. In French, we have meow. In German, we have meow. In Italian, we have meow. Mandarin, meow. Russian, meow. Spanish, meow. Korean is probably just like slightly different. Meow.
Meow.
Meow. Meow.
Is it with, but we have it with a
Nian.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's the only difference,
Yeah.
right? But pretty much everywhere else, it's some kind of meow sound because it's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
I think it's an easy sound to kind of replicate no matter what language you're talking about.
Right.
Because there's like a M and N the sound and yeah.
It's very nasally.
Yeah, it's nasally. I think these are all kind of phonics that are used in just about every language.
Right.
And they all sound like what a cat actually sounds like too. Some of these are wild though. Let's talk about pigs. In Korean, we say 꿀꿀.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Which is very like it's accurate. And then I wonder, where did we get ours from?
Oink,
Oink oink.
Well, actually, a lot of languages kind of have similar sounds.
they?
Okay, so in Albanian, I think has a great one, hunk, hunk, hunk.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Grr, grr, hunk, hunk. Dutch is nor. Yeah. English oink. German bruns. Japanese boo. I never got this one. So
근데
boo 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 boo.
매튜님이 성우여가지고 like 왜 어떻게 이렇게 하지? 근데 예시로 한번 해주니까
I spend a weird amount of time thinking about this.
so
But
you do it so well.
yeah, so I grew up in Japan, and whenever you learn a language, one of the first things you learn is the sounds that animals make. I never understood boo, 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 because they don't really they just don't have lips.
They don't press. They don't pucker up their lips. 그러네요.
In Polish, we have which is kind of like the squealing noise.
Okay, yeah.
We also have trum trum, which is, I think. This is only a theory. So the sound, their onomatopoeia in Polish for the sound that people make when they're eating is chrup chrup.
Oh.
So I wonder if there's a parallel there.
Could be. Yeah, maybe when like the pigs eat their feed, it could be
That could be it. Yeah.
Because I feel like oink also, it's not like the it's the oink oink.
It's
Yeah,
it's
when
the
they get
squealing,
excited.
Yeah. So in French, you have guan guan, which is, I think, kind of most similar to Korean. But it's spelled Groin, so it's a very jarring word to look at.
Groin.
Yeah, groin. If you're an English speaker, it's a very jarring word to look up.
Also, it's all in cursive too.
Guan. This is a very common theme with French onomatopoeia, as we'll come to find.
Very fancy.
Yeah. Cows. This is another one. We're kind of back on track with more universal sounds. In Korean, it's ume. Which I think is great because it has like it's complicated, right? It's not just moo like it is in English. It's meh. Like
It has a pachim first,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
I understand. It has a little boom go.
Yeah. It's almost like you can hear that sound, like you hear the cow like taking
From
a breath,
within.
projecting.
Meh.
And so in Afrikaans, it's meh,
Okay.
which comes from I think the Dutch term be. So again, like
It's
cows
the-
don't have lips. Why give a B sound to
because
these animals?
sometimes like when we say ne, sometimes we say de.
Ah.
So it's like the 그런 느낌.
Right.
Sometimes
right,
the N
right.
can, flow into a D. Sometimes the M can flow into a B.
That is very true.
Could be.
It's like the Laurel Yanny thing. Yeah.
Laurel Yanny.
Have you heard this? It's like an audio audio illusion.
Okay.
So there's a recording. We can probably pull it up. It's you can't. Half the people think it's like the red and the white and gold dress, blue and black dress situation,
okay.
but for audio. It's a clip, and half the people think it sounds like Laurel, and the other half think it sounds Yanny.
Yeah, I've seen those like Brainstorm or whatever and all that kind of jazz. Yeah.
But yeah, pretty much across the world, it's some form of moo or moo. Yeah. Dogs, however, surprisingly diverse, which makes sense because I think there are so many more different types of dogs than there are other types of animals. So many different sizes.
All the different breeds have all different types of voices.
Mm-hmm. In Korean, we have both mong mong, which not great. I'm not going to say it's a terrible.
It's cute.
Yes, it's cute. And then we also have wang wang as well, which is less commonly used.
I've heard walwal.
Wal as well. Yeah, wal. And then that's more of an aggressive kind of like, who are you? It's like
It's true. Beware of the dog.
Yeah, it's like it's the sound that my dog makes when the delivery man comes.
It's true.
In Dutch, you have bluff.
Kind of dogs. I feel like the dog has a mustache.
Yeah, bluff. And so in English, you have woof woof, and in French, again, continuing to woof woof.
Woof, woof.
Woof woof.
Yes.
I am a dog.
Smoking a pipe.
Yes. Indonesian, guk guk.
Okay.
And so in Japanese and in Mandarin Chinese, you have wang wang and wang wang. So that's where
Same
I think
from
where
wang
we
wang.
tend to get our wang
Okay.
wang, which is I think like the least common of like the onomatopoeias. Romanian dogs go ham ham. I love this one. Russian dogs go gov gov.
While sipping on some vodka. Gov, gov.
Yeah, Iceland is woof woof.
I like
and
that
Turkish
one.
is huff huff.
성우라, 진짜 다 살려요. 피디님께서 예전에 영어 배울 때 bow wow
Bow wow, yeah. There's
라고 배운 것
yeah.
같은데.
Yeah, I think that's something more that cartoon dogs say.
Yeah, bow wow wow.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah, so it kind of sounds like a baying beagle.
I mean, that's the reason why certain dogs were named Bow Wow.
Yeah, and one rapper.
Lil Bow Wow. That's true. Here's a fun one.
So this is one where so my wife and I have this discussion quite frequently, like kind of like comparing like different languages. I think this is the one onomatopoeia where English beats Korean.
Okay.
So in Korean it's 개굴 개굴.
맞아요.
Which is good. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
It's 재미없어 because
But-
it's 개구리.
Yeah. But in English it's ribbit.
It's so good.
Ribbit. This is probably the most accurate, I think, like onomatopoeia that English has. In Mandarin, it's guo guo. German, it's quack quack.
Like a duck?
Like a duck.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, what kind of, ribbits do they have? What kind of frogs do they have?
That's a thing. Maybe, like, I don't know what a German frog sounds like. It
Yeah.
could be something different. And then we kind of have ones that are like a little bit like more of the kind of exotic frog sounds. So in Hungarian, you have brek. And,
Whoa.
Yeah, there are those frogs that they don't croak. They kind of like almost
Crack?
caw like a bird.
Okay.
And then so Italian, you kind of have the same cra cra.
Oh, wow. I had no idea. Go to a zoo or one of those, I don't even know, those thingies, and you'll find like the most interesting looking frogs. And the prettier they are, the poisonous that they are
That's
too.
basically, yeah. It's nature telling you don't touch this.
Yeah.
I think kind of peppers are the same way. If you look at like the really really spicy peppers, like the ghost pepper and like the the Carolina Reaper, the rule is like the smaller,
Right.
more wrinkly. And basically, the smaller, meaner pepper looks like, the spicier it's going to be.
Just like a chihuahua.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, even like for birds as well. In Korea, I feel like because we're talking about chihuahuas, if somebody's being annoying, you can also say, "Oh, 왜 이렇게 짹짹거려?"
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like
Or are you tweeting?
yeah.
Tweedleating.
Yeah,
Not
or
about,
like being on Twitter, that's also being annoying.
Also
too.
very annoying.
Yeah.
Well, in any case, We still have, I guess we got done with our onomatopoeias for animals, but stick around. There's still much more to come. Once again, the question is 수탉이 우는 울음소리를 틱틸라옥, am I getting that right? 틱틸라옥이라고 표현하는 언어는 무슨 언어일까요?
That's right. Which language describes the sound a rooster makes as 틱틸라옥?
Speaking of dogs, here's a throwback. Here's the Bahaman. Who let the dogs out? Bahaman with Who Let the Dogs Out? Who? I guess that could be an onomatopoeia too.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Bark, bark.
It just happened. Yeah, bark, bark.
Bark.
Yeah, there you go. 수탉이 우는 울음소리를 티틸라우라고 표현하는 언어는 어느 나라 언어일까요?
That's right. Which language describes the sound a rooster makes as 틱틸라옥?
I'm going to say that it's probably somewhere in Asia. Is that like a...
I'll give you that one. Yes, you are. Yeah, I will help you center it in.
Okay. A little bit of like a Vietnamese type of vibe. Well, in any case, we're talking about all these different sounds that particular animals make, and surprisingly, they change depending on the region. So we do have one message coming in. 4319님께서 어느 다큐멘터리에서 봤는데 인종에 따라서 아기 울음소리도 다르대요.
Oh, yeah, it would.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so, because...
In Korea, what sound does a baby? Ueng.
그쵸? 응애. And then we
in
say
English
wow,
is
wow.
wow. Yeah.
And I guess other countries would be very different. But
France would be wow.
Yeah, but it's true because we use different muscles for different languages, and they must. I saw this little video where babies, the first 10 minutes after they are born, they can mimic what you are doing.
Right.
So they are so perceptive at that time. If you open your eyes and close them, open your eyes and do it repetitively, they'll copy that.
Sure.
And so I'm sure like whatever language you speak has a huge first impression
Right.
on that kid.
And speaking of which, this actually kind of might go back to what we're talking about cats and cows. So how we're talking about how every language around the world pretty much is meow for cats, and for cows it's moo or boo. So M sounds and B sounds, mama and baba. It's like mama, baba.
Right.
Like those are the kind of sounds that a baby will tend to first make. And so I think, just in terms of the physiology of like a human mouth, I think those sounds are just kind of natural and very universal.
Yeah, very true. So we took a look at what cats, as you said, pigs was a fun one. Frogs were fun.
Yeah, and before the break, you brought up birds going check in Korean.
Yeah.
And there's tweet in English, which that's fine. But one I like. This is not really an official one. This is this is one that my wife does. Is it's the sound that a pigeon makes when it flaps.
Yeah, I mean, it's really cool if you've ever like felt or I don't know witnessed a bird flying right at your ear. It's pretty loud.
Sure.
And almost a little painful if you get hit by one of those wings, but that's pretty accurate.
Are you afraid of birds?
I'm okay, but I went to Spain, and you know those courtyards in Europe
like
that have pigeons?
Like the plazas?
Yeah, the plazas. I was a bit scared because they just swarmed at me, and I felt so outnumbered.
Yeah. Like they're completely fearless, and at that point they basically rule the area because there's just so much for them to pick at.
Yeah.
In Korean, of course, a pigeon goes goo 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 goo.
Oh, right.
Which I think is a good one. In English, it's coo. It's I don't think it's quite. I think it's more of a G sound. I think Korean's a little bit more accurate.
I think it's actually the rolling of an R. Yeah, isn't it? No? 피디님께서 베니스의 산마르코 광사에 가면은 ocean of pigeons. What is it about Europe and pigeons and these plazas?
Okay, actually, I do know something a little bit about why pigeons are so prevalent in Europe.
Yeah.
So we put them there. Pigeons were the most before basically electronic communication was an incredibly effective method of transporting messages.
Right.
It genuinely was. It wasn't just something that was used in stories or like in wartime. It was homing pigeons are genuinely incredibly smart.
Like
And
일상생활?
They're essentially they were born to do this.
Okay.
Like pigeons can actually sense magnetic fields, and that's why they're so good at navigating. And so it's a thing that people still do today. Mike Tyson raised pigeons growing up, and he still does. Like he loves pigeons, and it's something you can still do to this day. But they were such an effective communication tool. That's why that there are so many, especially in Europe, to this day. We put them there.
We just bred them.
We bred them.
Yeah. For convenient use. Now it's become a little bit of a nuisance.
A little bit, yeah.
So much so that maybe that's the reason why Europeans do eat pigeons, don't they?
Yes, but they call it squab.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, it's once it's on a plate, it's called squab.
Okay.
And although in French, I think they're less squeamish about it because they call it le pigeon.
Le pigeon.
They just call it pigeon.
Oui, oui.
Yeah. So goo goo goo.
Becomes le pigeon.
So I can do this one. I can do one that I think is pretty unusual. I can make the sound of a metuki.
Oh.
See if I can do it. Nope,
Is that a
can't do
metuki?
it.
No.
Nope, can't do it.
Here's one I could do. 자기 장은 시간 가보겠습니다. I can do a 제대로 된 닭 할 수 있어요.
Go for it.
그래서 꼬꼬대가 아니고 가꾸드르드 아니에요? 먹. Isn't that right?
Wow, 10 out of 10.
10
that
out
was
of 10.
phenomenal.
Thank you. 10점 만점에 10점. This is how you 제대로 해.
Right.
A little onomatopoeia.
I'll tell you what's not a 제대로 된 onomatopoeia, though. What is up? This is the only one in the Korean language that doesn't make any sense to me. Owls.
Oh.
부엉, 부엉.
부엉이라서.
Yeah, it's not a Pokemon. It doesn't go around saying its own name.
Like 개굴처럼.
Yeah, exactly. But at least 개굴 sounds like, what is it?
Okay.
부엉, buong.
부엉.
Not
French로는
I don't know what sound an owl makes in French.
부엉이겠죠, 뭐.
Buong, yeah. Oh, no, I do know this. Yeah, in basically every other language, it's some form of hoo, hoo.
Hoot hoot.
Yeah, is again, ooh, ooh, in French.
Well, in any case, so much fun we're having talking about all these different animal sounds, which brings us to our question. 수탉이 우는 울음소리를 틱틸라욱라고 표현하는 언어는 과연 어디일까요?
That's right. Which language describes the sound a rooster makes as tiktilauk?
Drumroll, please.
Tagalog, the language of the Philippines.
I knew it!
There you go.
Oh.
But sounds are crazy. No one really has it right because you have cock-a-doodle-doo in English, cocorico in Spanish, French, and Portuguese.
Oh, wow.
Kikariki in German.
Kikariki?
Yeah. Whoa, whoa, whoa in Chinese.
Whoa, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa.
Gokyo in Korean. Like, okay. It's hard to make into an onomatopoeia, but man, no one has gotten it right.
Yeah. Except for me.
There you go.
Well, there you go. Philippines was the answer. Once again, thank you very much, Chef Matt, for being in the studio. We'll have to see you again next week.
See you then.
기대하겠습니다. We'll leave you guys with our last song. Here is 찬나비 with Cuckoo. 여러분, 내일 봬요.